not ignorant. And we like to believe that we all have the answers, or that we all know something about something. Now, I'm not going to say that everybody on the internet is ignorant, everybody is has a false opinion or anything like that. No, I'm just going to discuss some of the very extreme ideas that I've seen being spread around the internet, and I just want to touch on just how detrimental this level of ignorance could really be on an individual scale as well as a societal scale. So I want to begin by talking about ignorance as a form of a virus. It's kind of like a parasite. It really spreads almost like a wildfire, just about as quickly as COVID has here in this past year, actually. But the spread of ideas is actually speeding up in our societies today, and it seems like it's going through the online format, and that's probably the best avenue that it's utilized to actually get itself everywhere to the places that it's gotten to. Of course, these are places like Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube as well. There's many different outlets where forms of ignorance or ignorant opinion pieces are constantly being published, and people are basically falling for them. People are believing them, regardless of whether or not they're actually true, and whether or not people actually cite their sources or any information providing evidence that some of their claims basically they try and prove on their videos. So with this, we understand that ignorance is like a virus. It really spreads like a parasite, and it seems to get everywhere very quickly. And it's very difficult to combat this, especially now in today's society, because it seems like the second or the moment people see these ideas or these beliefs spread, it's almost as if they solidify and crystallize within the human individual in their mind, and they're almost captivated to the idea, and they hold on to it. They latch onto it like it's something that they're going to lose if they let go of it. So, we grip it very, very hard, very tightly. So from this, I want to go into really talking about how we can actually recognize whether or not we're being basically bamboozled into an idea, or if we're actually getting something informative and something that might actually be beneficial to us as individuals, and things that we can and should share to other people. Now, obviously, we all hear about intellectual opinions all the time. There's obviously people out there that form very, very great, I don't want to say ideas, I just want to say that they form their ideas very well, and they present it in a very palatable way. And most of the time they do this by editing their videos thousands of times over, because they have to make it look like it's perfect, or they make them cut so that way they look like they know what they're talking about, and they know they convince you, the viewer, like the people that are watching this video right now. They convince you that, they're damn near infallible because, look at this pretty little video that you're watching right here and now. It's so great and perfect that you don't really give it a second thought as to whether or not you should really look into whether or not it's informative and if it's factually based. Now, let's go into intellectuals specifically, And I want to talk about intellectual opinions first. I want to talk about the actual individuals that we consider in our society intellectuals, because after this we're going to get into the people that aren't that basically pose as intellectuals but don't necessarily actually do the things that an intellectual would do to provide information to the masses, to try and actually help keep everybody informed in our societies. So typically intellectual opinions are very thought out. It takes time, it takes effort to really formulate their ideas, and a lot of intellectuals will absolutely tell us how much time that they've spent studying the things that they actually inform us about. This goes to say, like doctors all over the country study things all the time, and they tell us what they believe is true, based on their findings, everything that they put us through as individuals, as their clients. When they take our blood, they get it tested, they get the results, and then they tell us the information in layman terms, so that way we can understand. And another piece about intellectuals is that most of the time, and this goes for most high-level intellectuals, if you have an idea, if you have something that you wholeheartedly believe is true and right, then to actually create combative opinions against it. So that way you can not only argue against very steelman opinions that go against your view of whatever it is, whatever the idea might be, but you never strawman somebody else's opinion that actually is involved with your idea, and you really give it thought. Now, intellectual opinions are done by individuals, and by this I mean that people actually go out of their way and really educate themselves on various types of opinions, on various types of concepts that that they discuss, that they talk about. An example again, let's go with doctors. They literally spend years, and I mean years, studying everything that they possibly can about human anatomy, as well as how different types of chemicals react within the human body, within the bloodstream, how they interact with blood cells, how they interact with different various parts of the body, etc. So when doctors come out, like on television, as they have been within the past year, they've told us information, they've given us information to the contrary of what a very select few people have done, but they come out and they tell us all the information and all the factual statistics that they're seeing and that they're experiencing. Now, intellectuals also go out of their way and they source information. They don't just get their source, or they don't just get their information from a single source. And an example of this is if, for example, somebody goes to different types of news outlets to get their own perspective on the news as to what might be happening in the world. So you'll go to Reuters, you'll go to AP, which is the Associated Press. They'll go to CNN, they'll go to Fox News. And the reason I brought up CNN and Fox is because they're highly left and right-leaning networks. So when an intellectual, especially in the news industry, is trying to get a piece out, or they're trying to really understand a certain perspective, a point of view, you have to use all the sources around you to really make a conclusion, or to certainly come to a clear conclusion, or at least a middle ground between the two. Because obviously we all know that CNN is very much so left-leaning in America. They're much more democratic, and then Fox News is hard right, which is also Republican. Now we can go even further than Fox. We can also involve OAN, but I think at that point we're getting into some muddier waters there. But another thing about intellectuals, especially, and this is a big one for me. This is a very big one. Intellectuals don't necessarily create content to create any type of tribalistic followers. This being said, it's not like intellectuals go out of their way to say things and make things, make content to make people feel better. We don't go out of our way to try and tell you what you want to hear, because that's just not how the world works. We need to find the information, and when we share it with individuals, we bring out the harsh reality of the truth. It's not that we're trying to, we won't say anything to try and make you feel better or feel good about yourself or about the world or about the state of the world or anything like that. We don't go out of our way to make our opinions or our content seem like it's something that's trying to gain some sort of momentum to create a tribalistic following. And so that's all I have on the intellectual section for the moment, for the time being. I'll obviously come back to this in sometime in the later future about this topic. But now I want to talk about the intellectuals that don't necessarily put in much effort in their research and in their opinions, and why it's dangerous to put out some of the ignorant pieces that they do. And one reason that it's dangerous, or at least one reason I believe that they're very ignorant intellectuals, is because most of the time these intellectuals get their information from single sources. So again, here I have obviously Fox News and CNN. If you only get your news from one source, I'm sorry, but to a certain degree, you are absolutely ignorant of what the other side is actually thinking about and how they're perceiving their reality. And this is very important to realize, because these type of intellectuals will go out of their way to make content that only feeds into one vein of the population. So they'll go out of their way, and obviously, if you're right-leaning, you'll go to Fox News, and you'll create content that seems to resonate with Republicans and the people that lean on the hard right, and vice versa. If you lean hard left, and you would go to CNN and watch their things and only create content for that specific group. Now, when you do that, when you do a single source, or use a single source for information, then you're subjectively omitting the audience from the other side. Now, another thing about these pseudo-intellectuals is they don't think about their ideas in depth. It really seems like most of these individuals seem to just go and source their information from one little pool that they have, and then they formulate an opinion piece, and then they send it out, and then just basically feed the following for that side. And to me personally, that doesn't seem like a good idea, because all you're doing is creating a tribalistic movement. You're creating a tribe that basically only follows you because of your opinion on this one little that goes to this certain degree or to this certain level, and basically if other people disagree with you, then those people must be either ignorant or they must be enemies. And that's basically what you turn everybody else into. If you lean in one direction or the other too heavily, you're basically saying that the other people are your enemy, and that's a very unstable way of looking at things. And I think the most important thing here that I'm really trying to touch on is that tribalistic attitude, or that behavior that these pseudo-intellectuals really bring out into the world. You're creating a following out of individuals who only see the world in one specific way. And you're not feeding them anything. You're not giving them any other information other than what you want them to have. And instead, you basically stagnate their growth. You don't help anybody else really develop their ideologies and really get out of their comfort zones to recognize others and their ideologies and their perspectives. And this virtually keeps people from having proper debates, from having proper discussions. And this ultimately leads people to basically just saying, I'm right, you're wrong. No matter what you say, no matter what evidence you provide or whatever evidence that you don't provide, I'm right ultimately, and you will never be right in my eyes. So this is tribalism. It's tribalism to me is probably my greatest fear about the pseudo-intellectuals perpetuating the ignorance that's being perpetuated around the internet and around the news cycles. This is the danger of ignorance, is this tribalistic mentality where groups of people who are strongly attached to any single idea or belief join in to all these other groups that basically reinforce their own beliefs by just that group mentality. Basically where if everybody in the room agrees with you, then you must be right. So if 2 + 2 = fish and everybody else in the room agrees, then that must be right. Mathematically, obviously, we all understand that that's actually not true. But nonetheless, that is my opinion on the danger of ignorance and the pseudo-intellectuals that are perpetuating the actual ignorance around the internet. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys in the next one. Take care.